Good morning! It's Saturday morning. Everyone around me is getting ready to go off to battle. It's all very exciting. I thought I'd do a bit of a recap and a bit of froth about what I've got up to so far. It's been a very good annual so far, summit so far. I've had talks with people about tests of metal. I went to watch the Bourse public auction. That was fascinating. I saw someone pay 17 thrones for a painting. I saw someone pay 20 thrones for a pen that once signed the Liberty Pact. Very exciting, but also, I don't know, had a strange aura on it. Not sure quite what hallowed that. Apparently it was completely spontaneous, but yeah, maybe dangerous. I've talked to someone about a death cult and an entire trial that they might be involved in. That was very exciting. I've spoken loads about Edric de Gauvain. What a legend. Apparently he killed an Eternal in single combat. Everyone seems to disagree exactly who it was. Some people say it was Hayek, some people say it was Jaehaerys, but it's still an amazing thing to do. People say he died completing his test of metal, which is very exciting too. I do like a good death, and especially when it's part of a glorious story of Dawn. And then I went over to Conclave. As always, I do love good Conclave. This one wasn't quite as good as Saturday of last summit, but we had big discussions about Ira Hurrah, the murder bunny. We still seem to be giving him amity at the moment, despite the fact that he's got hits out on several people in Anvil, despite the fact that he's possibly linked to freedom cultists and this sort of thing. However, he does bring us good benefits. He helps us save children. He's a really tricky Eternal, and it really sort of summarises the profound decisions that Conclave has to make. We talked lots about opportunities in Broceliad, trading with the Axos, raiding the Grendel, all sorts of exciting things like that. We talked about rivers run red. That's always something guaranteed to generate a good debate. There are various APs floating around that might do things similar to rivers run red in negating rivers of life, but without causing so much death to Imperial citizens. But are they worth it? Are they really? Huge debate. Do we want to have our hands tied like this? It was all very exciting. There were some really good, inspiring speeches. I really enjoyed that bit of Conclave. Brother Luke of the Shattered Tower talked about virtue and why we must act with wisdom. Lord Armand Remis of Dawn, he talked about the importance of the Coven bond and how it's a important thing to make links with friends and people close to you, not just national covens. It's very debatable, of course, because national covens is how we do some huge and impressive bits of magic. The Susavari Frost Coven of Wintermark have apparently just done Wondrous Forests of the Nights, which is a very exciting ritual, a really powerful night ritual that boosts prosperity across the entire empire, very high magnitude, but that sort of thing can only really be done by a large determined coven or a national coven. The other, of course, one like that is Knights of Glory, which we cast a huge number of times last annual, 8 times or something. As a result of which the Eternal that grants Knights of Glory might be taking it away if we don't build her a statue. We're probably not going to build her the statue because that might be idolatry. So there's all sorts of interesting debates in Conclave about that, about other Eternals we could maybe approach to get similar rituals. There's Quickening Cold Meat, a winter ritual that was very tempting. But then there's also the idea of making new things, generating new APs that might do this. Knights of Sexy Intrigue was mentioned on the floor. There was all sorts of discussions about our relationships between Heralds, Eternals and the Empire, particularly revolving around Capradan, a fascinating herald that lots of people are trying to interact with. We don't know who their master is. We discussed giving the master a title. There was then some discussions whether this might lead to idolatry, whether we might already actually know who the master is. It was a really interesting and philosophical discussion that drilled down to the core of what Conclave does. There was personal insults thrown around about how unvirtuous people were, and then the Archmage of Spring himself said, let's not piss off another Spring Eternal, they're all fucking wrong-uns. Hard to argue with that. He is a man speaking with the voice of experience. There was then a really big debate about the thrice cursed court, the Hag Queen Scave or Scade. Someone wants to grant her amity, Lots of people don't like her. There was discussions as to whether we should be giving amity or not. There are two separate reasons why we might give her amity. One to save souls, one to try to cripple the Grendel economically. This one was leading with the Grendel economically and didn't pass, but everyone's suggesting that it might come back up again tonight, Saturday night, discussing whether we should give it to her on the basis of saving the Imperial souls. So I'm looking forward to a really controversial discussion around that. And then I had a really nice evening, sort of chilling. I went to the Imperial offices, I went around various other places. I had a really fun discussion about hallowing. So hallowing's a thing that us priests can do. We take Liao and then we imbue an item with a special aura that makes it particularly reflect something's virtue. So there's one virtue hallowing for loyalty, the hallowing of the token, and we were discussing the most ridiculous places that we've done hallowings. So a inquisitor was telling me about a time that they cast hallowing of the token on someone's trousers. That means that as long as they were in contact with their trousers, they feel ready to risk anything in support of the allegiance this token represents. So we had a lot of time discussing, what allegiance do your trousers represent? Late night in the Imperial offices is a wild place. Personally, my favourite that I've done was a hallowing of the diplomat on a sword. So this was on a hot-headed earl who was about to go off into battle, and as long as he held his sword, he felt driven to treat people with respect. Disrespect by others, even towards his enemies, grated on his nerves, which isn't necessarily what you need when you're going fighting. And then we had sort of general discussions about what we got up to in Conclave, about all sorts of interesting gossip from across the magical world. Yeah, it was a really good evening. I'm looking forward to doing more hijinks today. Oh, and also, of course, my guide to Anvil was hugely popular. I managed to sell all of them just going around Dawn, Wintermark, Navarre and the Orcs. They all flew out of my hands. Loads of people have been coming up saying, can I buy one? Really sorry that I don't have them to sell to you. Next time I'm here, I'll try to bring more copies. I do still have lots of my new to Anvil guides, which I have dropped off at the library for anyone to pick up there that they want them, and I'm always happy to hand them out as I bump into you around Anvil. Right, I'm going to go off and cause some menace, see who I can bug, see what gossip and news I can pick up. Look forward to frothing at you again later. Good morning! It's Sunday morning and everyone's off at war or breakfast. So I thought I'd quickly have a little froth and excitement about how good yesterday was, because yesterday was very good. Had a wonderful time. It all sort of began a bit slowly, nothing sort of huge was happening. And then on the way to buy the Looking Glass, finest publication in the Empire. Oh, I love the Looking Glass so much. Where's my copy? Yes! Looking Glass, really good. It's filled with gossip and wonderful, wonderful discussions about interesting things, like the Hag Queen's Scathe was looming large in this issue, but then also it discusses people, what they wear, it's some of the best examples of armour that they've seen around Anvil. Really good read and lots of interesting information. So on the way to buy that, I bumped into some people who'd set up a kennel in the League, a home for the best doggos. And they were looking for people to enter the competition to decide who should run this kennel, orphanage, dog orphanage. Now, only someone from the League could win the actual sinecure and the money and the title. However, anyone who entered was in a chance of winning a large statue of the best doggo. So, they said you had to do a story, a song, a play, a work of art. And I decided to enter with a little story. You see, when I was very young, just a tiny young lowfolk, I had a really big dog, the biggest doggo. Now, we were living near the Barrens, which is a horrible area. We're going to conquer it one day, but we haven't yet got around to it. And unfortunately, it's filled with all sorts of wrong-uns. There's some really bad people in there, and there's also some really bad orcs. Those days, we didn't know that the Great Forest Orcs were actually friends of Navarre. We thought they were just bandits and raiders. And of course, also there were the Druge, who were the worst orcs. So my good doggo would always protect me whenever anyone came over the border. You know, if some orcs came over, he'd go running out with his big jaws and he'd go rah, 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 and they'd run away going, oh, the ancestors. And if some bad humans came over, there were all sorts of bad humans going through the barrens, those strange ones who are always walking around and wearing muddy clothes and that sort of thing. Not just the Navarre, but also freedom cultists. And if they came over, then my Goodest Doggo would go running out and go, "Rrr," and they'd run away going, oh, freedom! Except one day, he'd done so much biting of orcs that his jaws had grown so strong that he came out and he bit the ankle of one of the bad humans. And the human said, oh, freedom, and tried to get free, but couldn't get free because he was so bitten. And so he bit deeper and deeper and deeper. But unfortunately, that human was a briar. This means that when they're injured, they scab over extra quickly, and they scab over with horrible tree-like growth. This particular one had horrible thorns sprouting out of wherever he had a scar. And so my dog bit deeper, but the thorns grew bigger. The dog bit deeper, the thorns grew bigger. The dog bit deeper, the thorns grew up through his mouth, punctured him. He bit deeper and deeper, desperately trying to overcome this filthy briar, this filthy freedom heretic. But unfortunately, its bark was worse than his bite. And that joke was so bad that they awarded me this golden doggo. So this doggo is my prize for being the best storyteller. I think it might actually be a punishment because I've been carrying it around for all of the weekends and it's really heavy. But this is my punishment prize for telling such a good story in their competition. I then later told that same story in the Richelieu Festival of Arts in Dawn, and that was where I won this as the prize for the best storyteller, this lovely collar that my doggo now has. So a very good time was had with that. What else did I do? I got given a reward for helping capture a tamed mandala. That sounds more impressive than it actually is. It wasn't me who captured the tamed mandala. It was just that the person who had actually been given the award didn't like gin and so was looking for someone. And I said I do like gin, but I haven't got round to drinking it. But it's quite nice to have a reward for capturing an escaped mandala. And then also I went to Conclave. As always, I do love talking about Conclave. This time I actually spoke at Conclave, which was very exciting. All sorts of things were discussed at Conclave. A fascinating ritual that you can use to contact people across the Empire of a particular type. It could be used to send a message to all mages, it could be used to send a message to all priests, it could be used to send a message to everyone in a heretical cult. So it might be a bad idea. Lots of other things. We had a discussion about you shouldn't use curses that killed citizens. That didn't win at all. Almost no one voted for that. Apparently curses that kill citizens are A-OK. All sorts of discussions about ways that we can fight the Valorn. Should we be allowing Tharim to help? Should we be casting lots of Lions of Phoenix Reach? But the big one where I spoke was about Scathe, the Hag Queen. Now she is an Eternal who cursed the ladies of the Looking Glass. This is why they all have these scars on their face. She asked she controls 1,000 souls of a particular chapter in Highguard, and so she asked them, in order to try to free the souls, they had to curse the three ladies of the Looking Glass with this terrible burning brand, which the Highborn did. Although normally the Highborn don't like taking orders and subsuming human will to a Eternal, that being idolatry, but they chose it of their own free will to do her orders, and then this season their order was that they had to try to get Amity. So it's a fierce debate. This could be a way that we could save 1,000 souls, but what about the precedent? If we do it with this, then every Eternal who wants Amity will just try to steal 1,000 Imperial souls. So it's a harshly fought and very close debate, but in the end, it failed. Scathe doesn't have Amity. Those souls will not be freed. But we haven't set a dangerous precedent, so who knows what will happen there. Lots of other exciting discussions were had. Talks about Sedogua, talks about interdiction. So interdiction is a power of the Conclave. We can say that something is interdicted if we think it has a malign magical effect. In particular, we'd interdicted a potion, the double-edged blade, I won't get into the specifics about the interdiction around the double-edged blade. However, the interesting thing is there was discussion about whether it was constitutional for us to interdict a potion. We're not potion makers primarily, we are mages, we're ritualists, we're spellcasters. But it does have a magical effect, that we believed, that was unvirtuous and bad. Is it okay that we interdict it, even though we're not the people that make potions? We had news from the Constitutional Court, the highest authorities in these matters, that whatever we believe has a malign magical effect does. We can say it is interdicted to create shoes if we believe shoes have a malign spiritual effect. There was some discussion around this in Conclave, but also a lot of talking about it afterwards. In particular, I had a fascinating discussion in the Imperial offices late at night, slightly tipsy, where we concluded that the thing that we thought had the worst malign magical influence, sapping people's will, enslaving us, slowing us down, stopping us achieving our virtuous goals, was mud. So perhaps next summit we should look at interdicting mud. It's probably a good thing I'm not going to be at the next summit, taking a break for one and then back for E4, the final one, because otherwise I might actually go for that. It has been very muddy and I haven't really enjoyed the mud. My lovely shoes are meant to be one blue and one red, but as it is they are both brown. Oh well, I need to return the Goodest Doggo to his kennels where he's going to live, particularly for the next season whilst I'm not here. Go see a couple more people, see who's returned from battle and who's died out there, and then take down the tent and go home. It's been a great weekend, and I look forward to catching up with you all again soon.